Hello there, and welcome to episode 1 of series 2 of the How Uncivilized Podcast. It's finally here. We've been beavering away for a few weeks now, and it's all been building up to this. A new series with an entirely new topic. Well, reasonably entirely new. The film Rogue One. This week we're discussing Jyn Erso, the sometimes shady but always constantly cool leading lady. The journey starts here, but hang on because there's so much more to come. For now though, sit back and enjoy.
Hello there, and welcome to Series 2 of the How Uncivilized Podcast.
Series 2.
We finally decided to take a different direction, finally. Got around to that.
Been teasing it for goodness knows how long.
Yeah,
it's
all
finally
those listeners.
here.
Yeah.
We're finally back.
We finally made it into Series 2. And we're going to be looking at Rogue One, aren't we, Charlie? We've decided we've done the newest movies. We've done episodes 7, 8, and 9. We've had a look at them, everything entailed in that through Charlie's questions. Now let's each write some questions on Rogue One, and then let's chat about them. Let's find out a bit more about what's going on in Rogue One.
So that's essentially, like Spencer says, what we've done this time is to shake it up a little bit, because in our previous series, it was a bunch of questions I'd written all the way back in 2015 after watching The Force Awakens. For this one, of course, that list didn't exist yet, so we both went away, watched Rogue One a few times, and then came up with a list of 50 of our favourite questions, and that's 50 questions each. So we're going to be here for a very long time, it seems like.
Yeah, we hope you like Rogue One and all the lore surrounding it, because we are going to fill your ears with some
fill your boots.
Tasty tones over the next, probably, I imagine, 10 to 15 episodes, if we're lucky.
A whole series worth. I hope you like prolonged conversations about Star Wars lore, which ultimately isn't necessary, but we enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I really love Rogue One. I think it's amazing. I wrote my my dissertation, my final year dissertation at university on the music of Rogue One. So, you know, I'm somewhat
might bring that up at some point. You know, we've got, what's that, 2 minutes in, and you've already brought up that you did your dissertation on it. So,
well, some of us are academics, Charlie, and you know,
that's very true. You know, and if we ever do a podcast on West Side Story, I will be there for it, because I did my dissertation on West Side Story. Fun fact.
Which
I don't think we'll ever mention in this podcast ever again. But there it is.
Any excuse to just plug our dissertations there. But So dipping into Rogue One, we've decided we'll base the first episode on Jyn. So what we've actually done is we've gone through all the questions and we've put them into categories, either characters, locations, stuff like that we're then going to do episodes on. And we're going to go back to the original format where we record in 2 episodes in one go. So
just like old times.
Yeah.
Back to how things were.
Exactly.
It's been a long time. Not only has it been a long time for the viewers, but it's been a long time for us as well since that good old formula. How have you been, Spencer? How are you? It's good to see you.
Very well. I am so well. Oh dear. No, it's good to be back. It's good to be doing things the way that they were meant to be done originally. I mean, originally we started doing this podcast in the same room, so it's a bit different being in our separate locations.
It's been a long time since that. Yeah. What is it? We did that in,
I think it was March? February time. Yeah.
It's now end of August, September time. Like, Where's it gone?
End of August and end of days.
Yeah, end of August, end of days. You know, this time, by the time we get to March, we'll both be doing it in our separate bunkers.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to the end of days, really am. But yes, so with that in mind, we're just going to stop chatting away at you. You've got the basic premise of what we're here to do, which is talk about Rogue One and its various items, characters, and places.
Yes,
and yeah, episode 1 and 2 are on Jyn Erso. So I'm just going to kick it off with a little bit of background information on Jyn herself. So, Jyn Erso was born on an ice planet called Valt. Or Volt.
Huh.
Who knows? But yeah, she
Good
was born
start
there.
already saying who knows.
Yeah, who knows how to say that.
She was born on an ice planet, and frankly, we're stumped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But she was born on Volt in 21 BBY during the Clone Wars to Galen and Lyra, or was it Lyra? Lyra, I think it was.
Lyra,
yeah. Yeah, so she was born to them. She was born in a separatist prison, intriguingly enough.
Oh, wow.
Because Galen wouldn't share his intelligence of kyber crystals to aid the Confederacy. So obviously he's always on the wrong side, this poor bastard.
Oh, man.
Always ends up on the wrong side.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse. Oh, dear.
Poor soul. So Jyn lived in various places. Obviously, after the prison, they were rescued by a certain Lieutenant Commander Krennic of the Republic army.
Oh, he seems like a lovely guy.
Well, he was a lovely guy. He brought them to Coruscant.
And that's so nice of him.
And then, Galen spent a while job hunting in Coruscant. And that is where Jyn lived in a Coruscant flat for a bit with Lyra.
Coruscant pad, a city pad.
Exactly.
Very nice.
So yeah, just waiting around, waiting for Galen to get some work, which eventually he does, but that's par for the course. We're going to come back to that with Galen and Lyra and their backgrounds, the Ersos, on another episode. So I won't dip too deeply into the rich and luscious rivers of the Erso.
Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of overlap in these episodes. So if we ever touch on something and you're like, I want to know more about that, don't worry. Chances are it's on our list. I mean, we've got over 100 questions after all. So if you've thought about it, we've probably thought about it too.
Oh, definitely. And the thing about Jyn really, is that she has so much information on her. I think the creators of Jyn thought she was such a good character that they created loads of sort of ad hoc stories surrounding her. So there's a lot on her. I don't think we'll be able to touch everything this episode, but it's really interesting. And some of her aliases here that I found, which was, hold on to your hats, Kestrel Dawn, Jyn Dawn, Liana Halleck, Tanith Ponta, Lyra Rallick, and Nari Mcvee.
That's a lot of burner email accounts to have.
Oh, exactly.
She clearly gets a lot of spam.
And I'm actually going to come back to Nari Mcvee. A little teaser. We'll come back to that. You're going to be really interested.
Oh, man. Nari Mcvee. That just sounds like such a weird name.
Trust me.
That sounds like I know someone's going to point out that they're all made-up names, but that's definitely a made-up name.
Trust me, you're going to...
even in the Star Wars universe.
I know, it's a bit of a curveball name, but we'll take it. And she was also called Stardust by her father. So that's sort of not an alias, but more of a nickname.
The tears are real.
Exactly. So that's a little bit of background of Jyn, without getting too wrapped up in either Saw Gerrera or even, the Ersos, Mummy and Daddy. But we'll keep you posted on them. Don't you worry. But yeah, Charlie, you're going to take it away now with my questions. So do you want to just let everyone know what questions I came up with and give us a bit of a lowdown on what you're going to start talking about now?
Yeah. So one question Spencer had was, how long has it been since Jyn was hanging around with Saw Gerrera? Because in Rogue One, when they finally meet up again, she's like, oh, you left me when I was 16. And we don't quite know exactly how old she is. So it's, how long has it been since they were last together? What have they been up to since, or what has she been up to since then? And, I'm just going to fill out a few more of those details about, their relationship and what they got up to together, and indeed what they get up to apart. Again, a lot of overlap here, so there's going to be some stuff which we'll kind of touch on, but we'll come back to in our planned Saw Gerrera episode, which I'm looking forward to. That one's going to be a good one, because there's a lot of interesting stuff about him. He's a very cool character.
He's a cool dude. He's a very cool dude. Lot of cool things going on.
Very cool dude. Breathing problem and not many limbs left, but cool dude nonetheless.
Definitely.
So Rogue One, as we know, takes place in the year 0 BBY, because it's bang on the money in terms of the Battle of Yavin. So
that it is.
It's a big fat 0 next to that BBY. And I had to look it up because I was like, would it be 0 ABY or 0 BBY? But it's 0 BBY because technically it's still before. But then also, interestingly enough, I found out through looking this up that this is different from, this is not related to Star Wars, but in terms of calendar, there isn't a year 0 in reality, because it was 1 BC, then it went to 1 AD.
Yeah,
But interestingly enough, in the Star Wars universe, there's a year 0, which is really cool and different from
definitely
reality.
Yeah, keeps us on our toes. Yeah.
Like you said, Jyn was born in the Clone Wars, so she was born in 21 BBY, before Battle of Yavin. And in 17 BBY, that was when the Ersos went into hiding on a planet called Lamu, or something like that. I can never pronounce these words properly. That's the recurring theme of How Uncivilized.
Lamu.
Yeah. And we'll learn a bit more about that when we touch on her parents. And then 4 years later, in 13 BBY, that's when they were discovered again by Krennic, and she went into Saw's guardianship. And by the law of maths, that dictates she would have been 8 years old when that happened, because, and I can confirm this, did it with a calculator, 21 take away 13 is indeed 8.
Well, at least you can do maths. That we know now.
Ah, thank you. My A level did not go to waste. She was raised, initially, Saw told everyone that she was his daughter, because she's quite an important figure. The Jyn Erso was a very important person, so if they found out she was related to them, it could cause trouble. And he raised her, and he trained her in things like combat, smuggling, all different things, all these kind of slightly dodgy practices which Saw was really into, because he's a bit of a mean man, to say the least. And as she got older, she got into, she would help him with his jobs, and he worked with this group called the Partisans. We'll, again, touch on them a little more later on in a future episode. But she'd aid in their missions. She'd do things like smuggling and stuff, and all these slightly shady criminal activities, which, I'm sure were very tense, but also good fun for us to have experienced, which I would love to experience, like a Jyn prequel series. That would be something I'd be very interested in.
Definitely. There's a lot of rich history within her family.
Yeah. And so one thing which happened, there's a connection to the Solo film, funnily enough.
Oh, wow. We're really branching out.
Yeah, her and Saw Gerrera met up with Enfys Nest. Do you remember Enfys Nest from Solo?
Wasn't that the robot lady?
Yeah, the robot lady pirate.
Of course.
And so, I don't know if this is confirmed, but Saw got an order. I say an order like it's a business transaction. He got some coaxium from them. And if you remember in Solo, that's what they were hunting for and what they ended up giving to them. So I believe by connecting the dots here, that coaxium then was given to Saw for the rebellion and stuff, which is an interesting connection between the films.
Wow, that's incredible.
I always like connections. I always like it when things tie up together in the history.
Oh, yeah, it's really cute when it happens. When it all comes together.
I love it when a plan comes together. Yeah, so Jyn learnt from Enfys Nest, because they're both, young women, essentially. Nest basically taught her to almost allow people to underestimate you and use that to your advantage. You know, people will think, oh, you know, she's just a young girl, she's not going to be tough. And then she turns around and she's like, actually, I'm super tough. Fun fact, I'm a badass.
Yeah, and she damn well is.
Absolutely. Best badass in the galaxy. Fight me. I believe that and will die believing it.
Fight me, oh mighty fighter.
So when Jyn was 16, she went on a mission to Tamsi Prime, and there they were scouting out an old Empire munitions factory. And at this facility, they were actually betrayed by one of their own. One of the partisans decided to partisan his way out of there.
Oh my!
And they had to make a very quick escape, which was kind of a bit chaotic. And with the Empire on their tail and a possible traitor in their midst, Saw essentially gave her a blaster and told her, hide in this turret until daytime. And Jyn was like, yeah, sure. And she did this, but Saw, when it came to daytime, never came back.
What a bastard.
I know. What an ultimate betrayal.
Yeah,
horrendous.
Gutting.
So later in Rogue One, in the actual film, he reveals that he did this because others in the group had found out who she really was. They realized she wasn't actually Saw's daughter, and they discovered she wasn't Erso. And they wanted to use her to kind of as a tool to get close to the Empire or to do something. We're never quite sure. So Saw ultimately decided it was safer for her to be on her own because it had become dangerous for her being who she was in the group. Yeah, and that happened in the year 5 BBY because she was 16.
Yeah.
And as I've said earlier, maths. And
am I right?
Yeah, so they've been apart for 5 years, which actually, I know Felicity Jones is a bit older than the character of Jyn, but that's actually less time than I thought it would have been. I thought they would have been apart for maybe 10 years or something. But no, it was only 5 years between her leaving and then them meeting up again.
That's crazy, because I actually thought Jyn was like in her late 20s, early 30s. I didn't realise Jyn was actually quite old. Sorry, quite young. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's not a lot of time at all. And that kind of fills in the gap between the film and the earlier stories. And we'll delve into more detail, of course, later on. But for now, that's all I got. That's all.
Yeah, that'll be enough to tide us over. A little tidbit just of for now. Guerrera history.
Keep us cooking.
Oh, certainly will. I feel truly baked.
So
right.
Do you want to get on with my first question?
Yeah.
Tell us what that was.
So Charlie gave me a question, and it was, what is Jyn's necklace? So, a very important question, very interesting. So I thought I'd just kick it off with a bit of a description of the necklace. So the crystal itself is an opaque white kyber crystal. So the crystal itself is a sort of a whitey hue. And I thought I'd actually go into a bit about kyber crystals so we can speculate a bit further.
Yeah.
While she has that kyber crystal.
Cool.
So the kyber crystals have what's called a collective consciousness, which is as close as a non-sentient subject can get to sentience. So it's sort of, I don't know, almost like AI, but kind of not controlled by the Force type thing.
So it's like alive, but you still can't quite keep it as a pet.
Yeah, exactly. It's not quite worthy of giving a name, but it's kind of there.
This is my kyber crystal Colin. It's not quite that level yet.
No, exactly. They're not quite like that. But with that in mind, they could non-verbally communicate with not only each other, so from crystal to crystal, but also with other living beings that were out there. So the crystals had a form of communication going on, kind of in the way of feeling. That would be translated into a human that way. So kyber crystals, with that in mind also, they are force attuned crystals, and they're very rare. So, getting hold of them is quite a feat. Her having that one round her neck is quite something as well. They are used primarily to construct lightsabers and have been known to construct lightsabers in the past. There's a mix of the natural organic kyber crystals and the non-organic kyber crystals. So those are the synthetically created ones. Like I think we touched on a previous episode, or you did, Charlie, the idea of synthetic crystals and the Sith using them, like the red ones, to, create their own sort of powerful kyber crystal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so interestingly enough, the design for Jyn's necklace was originally going to be used in The Force Awakens, but was scrapped during production. So I don't know who would have worn that necklace or where it would have come into play. But yeah, it was designed for The Force Awakens. It was given to Jyn by her... Yeah, no, it's really cool. Very cool. It was given to Jyn by her mother, Lyra. And when Jyn and her family were hunted down by the Empire, she passed it to her. The necklace was given to Lyra by a Rin jeweler. So apparently, Rin's a humanoid looking with white hair and prehensile tails.
So they're essentially albinos with a tail.
Yeah. Well, apparently that means long and capable of grasping. That means, monkeys use their tails.
I see.
So I assume it means their tails
like
can like
monkey people.
Yeah, well, they're like humanoids with a tail, so they could probably hold a cup of coffee with their tail or something.
That's terrifying. That's going to keep me up at night.
But she actually thought she was being chased by them, Lyra.
Okay.
So she was like running away, and then they ended up... I don't know what happened after that. They don't get any more specific, but I assume like something happened. Either Lyra killed them or they gave her I have no idea, but...
I don't know. That feels like racial profiling. They're just running after her like, you forgot your receipt, and then she just kills them. That's disgusting.
I'm not too sad about her dying now.
No. I mean, we don't know much about her. She could have been an absolutely terrible person. It's quite possible.
We are not our parents, so, we shouldn't be judged by them. So, yeah, the necklace, it had the words "Trust in the Force" engraved into it in Arabesh. So, Arabesh was the writing system used to transcribe Galactic Basic, which is the most common and most used language in the galaxy. So I assume it's the same as just having English scratched onto a glass ball.
I see. Yeah. So it's essentially it's a little memento. It's a little, almost a gift you'd get on holiday.
Yeah, it is almost like that. Kind of like tacky, but also kind of very, very worth a lot of money.
A very expensive yet tacky present.
Yeah. But Lyra told Jyn to trust in the Force when she left and gave the kyber crystal to Jyn. So, just ringing off some of those company slogans.
Yeah. The basic go-to for using the Force, just like, you just got to trust it, just feel it, and you'll be fine. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dear. But anyway, it made me think, based on what we were talking about earlier, about the consciousness of crystals, completely separate to Star Wars. Obviously, crystals have huge healing properties generally. You gotta love crystal skulls. They are...
Oh yeah,
they're truly powerful.
I mean, you couldn't make that.
No, you couldn't make that. Oh yeah, but So no, honestly, it does make me think about the connection of kyber crystals and how they may guide Jyn when it's around her neck. So maybe the kyber helped her to follow the will of the Force and find her destiny, or something like that.
Possibly
by sort of non-verbally communicating with her and feeding her the right information at the time.
Maybe it could connect with how we see Chirrut, because when he's saying he's one with the Force, it almost protects him from things and his surroundings. Maybe having something which is so in tune with the Force gives you some kind of protection when you're out and about, and maybe that's what helped her to survive so long. Apart from her own personal skills, it was that added protection. Yeah,
that added protection and the ability, to call on that Force-powered crystal when she needed it. Oh dear. But yeah, so that sort of ties it off nicely there. The end of that question. Any follow-up questions you got for me, Charlie, about the crystal? Anything you wanna add or take on there?
Not really, no. Is there any particular reason why it was white? Like, normally kyber crystals tend to have a distinctive color to them, but I guess that's not for you to know. That's
no, not for me to know. I think they are. The color can be imbued on them by Force users. I think.
Okay.
I think that's how it works. But I'm
I mean,
not
they get to pick their color.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think that's how it
starts
works.
off white, and then you're just like, I would like a green one.
I would like a pony, Daddy.
You will have a blue one. What flavor is the green one?
Oh dear. But yeah, that brings me quite nicely to a close there. So that leads us on to your next question, Charlie, from me, that you've done a bit of research on. Go on, shoot me.
Yeah. So your question was, why did Jyn forget the hologram? And for some context, so when Jyn and Saw Gerrera meet at last after all the tension, being like, are these two going to meet? Are they finally going to see each other again? Yes, they will. It's all part of the film. So when they meet again, Saw has a message from Jyn Erso, Jyn's father, which he acquired from Bodhi, and this was the message that the Empire wanted intercepted. This is essentially the, I want to say inciting incident, but it's not quite that. It's the MacGuffin which sparks the beginning of the whole story, is Bodhi having this message from Jyn Erso, and this message tells Jyn about the flaw that is built into the Death Star, of how to blow it up. And this, we can assume, is the first time she's seen him properly since she was 8. And naturally, this is quite upsetting for her, so she has a bit of a cry. Perfectly understandable. It's a emotional time. The end of the message it coincides with the actual destruction of Jeddah City by the Death Star when they do their, let's try this gun, but put it on 1%.
Set phasers to stun.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Set Death Star to minor destruction. Yeah, so Cassian comes to tell Jyn that we need to leave because the city is being destroyed and there's a huge wall of rock coming towards us. So, yeah, better toddle off now, better get going. Saw stays in spite of Jyn asking him to come with them. He's like,
get your running shoes on.
Yeah. Saw's like, I'm done. I need to go die now.
I just want to die. I've done too much of this fucking rebel shit now. I just want to die.
Absolutely. You
take me, planet.
And lo, I return to the dirt.
Cracks me up.
Her and Cassian leave without taking the hologram. Later on the ship, Jyn tells Cassian about the message, and he's like, oh, cool, where is it? And of course, she doesn't have it, and the only other person who saw it was Saw, and he's dead now. So she's the only person who's actually seen this message.
The only person who saw it was Saw. The Saw did saw it. And then
I thought you'd enjoy that.
It cracked me up. That was too good.
Yeah.
Juicy.
So why did she leave it? Ultimately, it's because she was distracted by other things. She had to leave quickly. It was the first time she'd seen her dad. Saw was like, I'm going to die now. See you later. So there was a lot of stuff going on. and so she couldn't pick it up. But I wanted to speak more about moving away from the actual actions of the characters to more of what it means thematically for the hologram to have been destroyed, because the point in terms of the actual film of her leaving the hologram there and her being the only one who's seen it is it ties into Cassian's arc in that he needs to kind of learn to trust her and learn to trust people again, because ultimately he's lived a very morally grey life up to this point.
Oh, definitely.
And part of this arc is him realizing that he even says it in the film, or Jyn, she says in the film that he's just been following instructions, and ultimately, does that make him any better than stormtroopers if he's doing these bad actions for, you know, not necessarily good reasons? So for him, it's a moment of being able to say, I'm going to do something good just because it's the right thing to do, and I believe someone because I trust someone, and it gets him to hope again and believe in hope. And
that's all part of Jin's arc as well. You know, rebellions are built on hope. You know, that's what Cassian said as well.
Absolutely. And although, so in the moment, it might seem like, oh man, why did they forget that thing which they could have just picked up, you know? Even though it was probably a very stupid decision for them to have left it, in terms of the actual story of the film, it's a very significant turning point in terms of both Cassian and Jin's story arc and where it ends up with them hugging on the beach. Spoilers.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful plot point.
Yeah.
Really, really quite poignant. Really, really great. But like, come on, if you hadn't seen your dad in 13 years and there was a little recording of him and everything was getting blown up, you'd take it.
Yes. So
you'd take it.
Stupid decision, but I'm glad she made it. The fool, the idiot.
Yeah.
Come on, Jyn, sort yourself out.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Ah, man. I was just thinking about that bit on the beach, and man, I love this film. It's so good to be talking about a film I really, really like.
Yeah, no, it's such a good film.
The episodes. I mean, just watching it again in build up for this, and it's like, oh man, I just forget how much I like this film.
This for me is the best Star Wars film ever made, hands down.
Really? Oh wow, very bold claim.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most excited because I was a bit young. Well, I wasn't alive, so way too young when the original trilogy came out.
I was in minus figures.
Yeah, and I didn't really get into the prequels until I remember Revenge of the Sith coming out in the cinema, but I didn't actually go see it because I didn't really watch Star Wars. I hadn't watched Star Wars at that point. So I grew up watching them all on DVD. And for me, Rogue One was the best like cinema experience of watching Star Wars that I've had. Like Force Awakens is up there purely because it was like the first time I'd seen a Star Wars film in the cinema. But like just in terms of watching it and it actually being a really good film, which I really enjoyed, this was the one.
Oh yeah.
And I just think of us coming out of that cinema after watching it and just literally jumping up and down, being like, that was so good.
Oh, it was amazing. We had such a good time. Such a perfect feeling. I don't think I've ever come out of a cinema with such a perfect feeling.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever will again, sadly.
Just so hyped and so excited. Oh, man.
Yeah, it was.
It was great. And then we went straight to the pub and had to find a corner where no one else was so we could sit and talk about it loudly without giving away spoilers to people.
Thank goodness that pub was busy.
Yes, thank goodness. You wouldn't see that nowadays. Remember busy pubs?
Remember to be COVID compliant.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that was...
and that's all I got on the hologram.
Thanks for listening to episode 1 from series 2 of the How Uncivilized podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our series 2 debut and are looking forward to so much more. You may feel you've got your fill of Jyn, but you're wrong. Join us on episode 2 where we get very Jyn-tense.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit for all of your social media needs. We're also on YouTube, where you can find all of our podcast episodes, as well as our playthrough of LEGO Star Wars. The How Uncivilized Podcast was produced, created, and edited by Charlie Stardust Feasby and Spencer Nari Mcvee Lawrence.